say, take it away. The floor is yours.
Listen, lots happened this year, John, and we got a lot of stuff we can cover, but I think, no stone unturned, right? We had some guys dig into an analysis, and I'm wondering if you want to start with this. It's whether it's better to give away teas or sell them in packs. And we've gone pretty deep on this. Should we start here, or what do you want to do?
It sounds fantastically boring, Damon. Maybe we should go a little bigger. What do you think?
I'm okay with bigger. You know me well. I like bigger.
Okay,
so
let's go bigger. Let's have some fun.
All right. Well, I'll tell you one thing we're seeing a lot of, and I'm curious if you are, is after what feels like 700 years of trying to fill rounds any way we could in downtimes, this year, we find that all the various discounts that we've put into place over the last 10 or 20 years, we're actually, that's the way to make money, is to unwind them. Are you experiencing that?
It's been sort of a movement within our company for a period of time, just analyzing different day parts of our tee sheet. But I think this year has absolutely given operators the opportunity to have, a very nice thing on their side, demand, right? And when you have demand, you can really analyze your business. So I totally agree with you. I think, when you're looking at your tee sheet, this year has provided the opportunity to evaluate how rates are populating into your tee sheet and where, at what premium day part are they populating. And I think limiting some of those discounts, some of those opportunities, if you can do that, you're going to see the demand populate into your tee sheet and you're going to make more money. What about you? Have you seen that on your side?
Yeah, no question. I mean, it's supply and demand is like day one of econ, right? And that's where price wants to be. But it's a funny business, right? We've got all these different times, and for eons, the good ones have been pretty much the same. And this year, one of the things we're finding is that's not totally the case, right? Things we used to have to discount now because people are working from home in some markets, those are in demand. And so, something we used to maybe say is, hey, here's a super twilight, which is like double, triple discount, or here's a mid-morning Saturday. You haven't seen your kids all week, so you can't escape in the middle of the day. Now it's like you're doing nothing but hanging out with your kids and you're desperate to get out of the house in the middle of a Saturday. Kidding aside, I think the question I throw to you is, I know you guys are systematic about, okay, look, raising price is a broad concept, but how do you do that right? And how do you do it? I mean, I think the scary part for people is, boy, I don't want to alienate. I don't know how long this lasts. I don't want to alienate people. I don't want to be greedy. People don't like airlines. I don't want to be like them. So how would you say, where does the average operator just say, okay, look, what's the one thing I can do? How do I take a look at my tee sheet without spending a month analyzing it? What would you recommend people do?
Yeah, I think there's a one strong fundamental out there, right, for all of us that operate golf courses. There's a customer that places more value in their value equation to flexibility and pricing, and they have more flexibility to play, at different times during the day. And there's a customer that doesn't have that flexibility, and therefore, they need premium time. So you got a customer who's focused on price, you got a customer who's focused on time. And it's about 50-50 out there when you look at most clubs' tee sheets, the mixture of folks that are booking for value versus time. And so I think you got to talk to those customers differently and realize that you can give incredible value. There are opportunities to give incredible value to your customers, but really you're going to be talking to about 50% of your audience. And then there's incredible opportunity to maximize your premium days with the other 50%. So how do you take, both customers and satisfy both needs? I think that's what we're talking about, right, Damon? And I know, I think most folks hopped on a train earlier this year whenever we went through the pandemic and golf first opened, and there was that boom that, hey, maybe this tiered pricing doesn't make a lot of sense. Maybe, we're going to be priced our premium time 7 in the morning to 11, then 11 to 2 we're going to go down, then 2 to 4 we're going to go down, 4 o'clock we're going to go down. And I saw a lot of clubs just say it's just going to be our premium rate till 4 o'clock because they had the demand, and they reacted to an opportunity. The reality is at some point we're probably going to go back where folks have more demand on their time. They're going to be going to kids events. I think that's been a big, area of opportunity for us, is that, there was no youth sports. So we're going to have to, but it's just the fundamental approach of what does my day look like and what are my opportunities? And there's premium opportunities and then there's price opportunities, and you have to be aware of them. And I think the only way you could truly evaluate that is to look at day part. And day part, 8 to 9 o'clock, what's happening? How many tee times are booked? I'm 3 days out. Am I over what's usually booked, or am I under? And then how do I react? What about you, Damon? What do you think on those lines?
Yeah, totally. And, if I could hang some numbers on it, just so that it's not conceptual. If I think of one of our facilities that's done a really, really good job with this year, daily fee facility, half of the revenue was weddings, half was golf. Guess what? Weddings is now 0. Mm-hmm. They are, in the summer months, actually exceeded the budget for weddings and golf with just golf. They did that through a 35% volume bump and a 24% dollars per round bump. And every single month of the year so far, the dollars per round bump has gone up more. And on a recent call, we discovered there was the change of seasons alerted us that there was one rate we had missed. And there was a little bit of a discount in the middle, and it pertained to like a players club. And this players club was historically, people at this facility were playing like between 2 and 3 times a year. And we found that if we could charge them an upfront fee of $100 or $200, give them some nice discounts and some feel goods around it, that they would bump that and we'd get more share of a wallet. We'd see them between 6 and 7 times a year. And, they're paying less per round, but not a ton less. We're talking 20% less, and they've paid some of that up front. That program, normally we would say we'll have 10,000 of those people, right? Like we'll take as many of them as we can get. It's usually been about, in the 500 to 700 range. This year, it quickly shot to 900, and we capped it because we realized, well, now we're losing, right? Now we're getting these people and in the meantime, we're giving them too good a deal. They found this thing that was out there for us. So we eliminated that in one of these mid-morning rates that only was associated with that category. And so we looked again at just Sundays, right, where it was having the biggest impact, and we saw a 21% bump the first week we did it. One of the things I think that's really interesting, and I don't know how you tackle this, is what you do is not the problem usually. It's how you do it and how you communicate it. And how you intend to communicate it isn't always how it's heard. And so I'll give you an example from this one. And by the way, I should say, folks, if there is an audience out there, we'll just keep going. But if you have things to contribute or that you want us to answer, or you've got an idea, you throw it in wherever you're supposed to throw it in. And we've got folks that are smarter than us behind the scenes that'll break in. But back to this, John. So, we started to let rates fluctuate and play with dynamic pricing, which we've toyed with in the past, but we really, really embraced it this year. And when we did, it was fine in most categories, and it started to affect these regular customers in this little segment. And the team looking after the relationship said, geez, how do we explain this? Right? And it's fine for me remotely to say, well, look, airlines do it, hotels do it. We're like the last people on the planet that doesn't do it, right? And so where there's a no cost of goods service, they can't explain that, right? That's not what the customer wants to hear. So we worked through it a little bit, and the penny dropped when the head professional was talking to one of our regular customers who had said, like, well, what's it cost to play in this time window? And he's like, well, it doesn't really work that way. And there was a little bit of back and forth. And finally, the customer said, oh, so you're doing it like the airlines, which we were hiding from. We thought, well, everybody, maybe they don't like the airlines. We were not using that example. And he's like, oh, you're doing it like the airlines? Oh, yeah, okay, that's fine. I'll book it online. No big deal. And we started seeing people, we actually had to raise the upper limit of the dynamic pricing model because people were maxing it out really quickly in those prime times. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I mean, dynamic pricing in general has been a concept that's been around for a long time. I think if you're doing dynamic pricing and you're not doing yield management analysis, you're kind of missing the boat with the dynamic pricing, right? I think we both realize that. So, to me, dynamic pricing is an opportunity to make more in a day part. And you have to be very careful when you're backfilling with dynamic pricing, when you're creating sort of this, hey, there's always going to be a discount. Wait. What you really want to do is maximize those premium days. I grew up in the Northeast, on a Saturday in June in Pennsylvania when it's 75 degrees and beautiful, anybody can sell a tea time, right? But who can maximize that tea time? And that's more of a philosophical difference. But I like when you spoke about related to actual impact and numbers. And the reality is what we've seen in our day parts is if you kind of set it and forget it, and it's a day, you're going to do one number. If you add a dynamic pricing in those premium windows based off utilization rates, 7-8% more is very realistic, and the customer is not afraid to pay it. And the customer in today's market is intelligent. They understand how things are priced. And frankly, our world is trending online much faster than the golf world, right? Only about 12% of tee times are booked online right now. But that number's, doubled, every 2 years, the last 6-8 years. So 10 years from now, we're going to be looking at a big impact from dynamic pricing if installed correctly. We should do it now, get ahead of the curve, obviously. But I would say focus on your premium days and not discounting when it comes to dynamic pricing. Your thoughts on that, Damon?
100%. I think right now, we've let discounts stand, and there's just the demand is taking everything north this year. We're never touching the lows, so it kind of doesn't matter. But yeah, if your mentality is, and I guess this is going to maybe take us into where those tee times get booked, if you're okay with introducing that conversation. But if you're comfortable with the notion that I have zero incremental cost to a round, and therefore I'll take a penny and be better off, then I think you look at the world differently than if you say, there's some price that's an opportunity cost that may affect my reputation. It may cannibalize someone who maybe at the margin was not a value player, but when the differential gets so great, they'll say, oh, okay, I don't like blue cars, but if you're going to give me that much of a discount, sure, I'll buy the blue one. And also there's some element of, who booked it? Did they book it on your sheet? Or did they book it somewhere else? And then at that point, who owns that email address and who controls where that person's eyeballs go? Personally, I'm on the record as, we don't use third-party tee sheets. We do it all direct. I don't know that I'm always right about everything, but that's just what's worked for us. We were one of the earliest to test it the other way. We didn't like what we saw. And so it was long before any of the current players have the names they have now. How do you guys handle who books what?
I'm pretty sure I'm on the record now too, Damon, with some of the articles I put out related to this. But, I feel very strongly that as a golf course owner and operator, collecting your customers' data is essential. Speaking to your customer through automation, if possible, but just having that direct relationship is vitally important. And the most important thing is providing your lowest price point in a channel to your tee sheet where you own 100% of. Don't compete against yourself, right? And in today's world, we've got, there's a very large grouping of public golf, semi-private golf that is exposed to sort of a different philosophy than that. I take the approach that if I can have a customer in front of me and I can turn them into a direct booking customer, that is my best way to retain, communicate effectively, offer value, and then situationally place into premium spots on my tee sheet. And, that's a culture at a club, it really is. And it's also tied to, I'd love for you to speak on this, when you're talking to your golf professional, there's all sorts of different golf professionals at facilities. Are they taking ownership of filling their own tee sheet, right? It's so vitally important for us. How do we fill our own tee sheet? How do we make an approach every day of, hey, let's learn our database, let's grow, and let's see what we can do to really provide value and grow our profits. So it looks like we got a question there, Damon. You want to take that first one?
Yeah, sure. I'll do it. So it says both of you have migrated completely away from third-party bookings. How long did it take you to realize it was the right decision for you? So I'm going back. I don't even remember what they were called. It was something patriotic, and they had a flag in their logo. And they were based in Williamsburg, and it was. I like technology and I like startups. I teach startups. I'm always I think we were the first golf course to be zero food waste. We were the first to do online ordering of food. We were testing drone delivery on golf. I mean, I just am a junkie for that stuff, and most of it doesn't work out, but some of it does. And so way back when, a zillion years ago, 10 plus years ago, we did this, and it took us we used it for basically summer into fall, what amounted to 3 months, not neatly overlapping with a quarter. And they had their version of barter would get booked as these things called I don't think they were called red flag tee times, but maybe I've made that in my mind because it was a red flag. Maybe they actually were ironically called red flags. But we sat down at the end of 90 days and the head professional just said, look, we're not getting anything here that's paid at anything other than a discount. And we're getting killed on these red flag rounds. And then those people are not becoming regular customers. So all of the theories were quickly dispelled. So for us, it was kind of a 90-day test. And then since then, he's probably in the audience somewhere, but people like Harvey Silverman and others, I'm always revisiting and coming back to it. I just haven't ever seen for us the reason to sort of go back and reconsider it. How about you?
We did about a 5-year deep dive among our entire portfolio, analyzing third-party channels. And it became very relevant quickly conversation for us to understand that the larger percentage of our tee times which were associated with third parties, there was an inverse relationship to our green and cart fee number. It was eye-opening, right? So it took us down a path of saying, as everybody is to some degree, well, if I turn these channels off, I'm scared I'm going to lose these rounds, right?
Yeah.
I understand I'm giving up margin, but I don't want to lose this network of golfers.
Yeah.
And so we really started analyzing online golfing behavior. And what we realized is, the golfer in general is thinking about the facility or the type of facility they want to play. And then they're going out and finding value. It's not the other way around for the most part. It's not, I'm going to go look at this grouping of clubs and I'm going to have the best value. I'm going to buy the lowest tee time in general, or I'm so committed to this one third-party channel that I'll never consider booking in other, forums. And once we realized that was the golfer's behavior, it became very evident that, what we were creating was competitive displacement. We were taking customers who organically thought about us, would potentially go through our booking channel, our booking engine, our website, and we're giving them opportunities to go somewhere else, have someone else collect their data, have someone else remarket what they want to do to them. And it just became, really eye-opening for us. And we did a survey about 6 months ago, 4 to 6 months ago, which I put an article out about. 6,700 people took that survey. It was all about online booking behavior. And what the survey showed to us was 97% of people would be unaffected if you no longer posted your inventory in these third-party channels. They would book through other means to book at your golf course. And I think we're all paying more than a 3% margin in those channels, right? So it became very evident. We made the switch portfolio-wide April 1. We partnered with a new point-of-sales partner, cloud-based system, Club Caddy. They're probably on. I think they're sponsored this event, and they provided a great forum for us to build and instill this culture of direct booking. And we're excited about the change. And financially, when was the difference? I don't know, 2 weeks in, to be honest. I mean, we saw an instant impact. So,
yeah, I'll tell you, for those of you who are getting, look, what you have to realize is there's always something, right? And it's not just golf. There's always something. Groupon, Amazon was doing group tea time bookings for a while. Google will sooner or later show up and do it. Everybody wants your data, right? And the hack I've developed that I encourage you to steal is to talk to one of these poor sales reps, and when you're talking to them and they're telling you how great they're doing for other, there's two tricks they always say. It's like, cost you nothing. We're doing great for other people, and our database is bigger than yours. I would tell you, you can build a database bigger than them. I've done it. Because you only care about your local market. You don't care about the 50 million people in the world that they have. It doesn't matter. They're not coming to your town to play golf. So the hack I use is to say, well, tell me about these other courses that who are the best? Tell me the best ones in my area that you're helping. When I've done that, and it may be different in your area, it may be different for some service in the future. Every single time those courses have been on the verge of bankruptcy, right? And that tells you they're desperate, so they don't have the marketing money. They can't make the investment to switch point sales. They can't do the analysis. For those of us who have had the misfortune of being on sort of the edge of the wrong end of it, you're just trying to keep the ship afloat, right? If your fingers are in the holes in the boat and you're bailing with the other hand, and somebody tells you to put on sunscreen, you're like, look, man, not right now, right? Like, I'm busy. And so, you get a sunburn, and you just try to live till the day when you can free up a hand, and hopefully you do. So that, and those are the customers you're putting out to me. Like, you're not saving them. They're the ones who everyone can see they're giving it away, right? So if that's what you hear, then just place yourself in that company and try to decide, do I feel those are the best customers? Is that aspirational for me, or is that a race to the bottom? If it's the latter, that's the end of the call, and you probably should be nice to them and hang up. I usually try to convince them to take a job elsewhere, but that's just
We got another question here. Yeah, so I can hit on this one. So, pre-COVID golf outings, we all did a lot of golf outings and lost that opportunity, right? So that's an opportunity cost. So what happened, with rounds for the year, and I think for the most part, at least for me, the demand was much higher than the loss on potential golf outings. I think this question pertains much more to the future, right? What happens as golf to come, right? And we're balancing maybe demand, slowing a bit, and how are we going to analyze that? And, I think hopefully, folks, if you haven't, maybe they will, starting tomorrow, all these additional customers, I hope your database is strong. I hope you're looking forward to continuing to communicate to them and book them through direct channels. Golf outings are great. I think golf outings need to be analyzed, though, like anything. Just because you can move an outing at $50 on a Friday at 1:00 doesn't mean you should, right? That goes back to what we were talking about initially with, what I call rate channel, which is analyzing who's booking your tee times when. And I think golf outings and memberships are two areas that oftentimes get misanalyzed within a golf operation because you are giving up inventory, right? Golf outings are great. They look great. They sound, sexy, big lump sum. But, are you generating more for that inventory during that day? So I think it needs to be analyzed. So I agree.
I would say, it pays to think of it almost like wholesale retail relationships or a channel partner discount, like for a corporate account versus, something you sell onesie twosies. When you have slack demand, that volume is worth the discount. When you don't, it's not. Now, it's a temporary moment, and we don't know what to gauge off of. But if you look at other industries, the rule of thumb is about half the business you pick up in an anomaly like this, you keep. Right? Some of the customers go back and start chasing their kids around, because there's no kid good enough to play theirs in lacrosse except for the kids 10 states away. So they go and stay in hotels all weekend long. But some parents are going to say, whoa, why did I ever do that? Like, I'm going to just work from home, throw the ball in the yard with my kid. We'll play in the neighborhood. And this is a much better life. You're going to keep some of them, right? Or some of them Whatever, they dusted off the clubs, and here they are back. I think we want to take care of those customers, but look, with the outings, I'll be honest, I don't know how to analyze what to do with outings. What we did is, at private clubs, the answer to Ronnie's question is hell no, right? Like, you ended up with tons more member rounds. Reciprocity had to go for safety. Guests got crowded out because members were playing so much more. You probably picked up some more members, and your outings all canceled. So no, it was the opposite. You got, you have solidness, but you don't have the revenue, and now you're probably channeling it back in, as we are. But at a daily fee or some version of it, the answer is yes. I mean, on $1 per round, the outings, the wholesale, right? And so what we've done is, in the moment, we said, we have a call, like a 15-minute call. It's my favorite call of the week. It almost always is 6 minutes. Where are we with outings booked to budget for the year, right? And usually if we hit the rounds, the revenue takes care of itself because they're in a pricing matrix. So what we just said is, on those calls, look, let's just turn this into kind of more of a update call, an ops call, and let's not chase outings. Let's not be mean to anybody, but let's not chase anything except for the real, the good customers. And then as we look at next year, honestly, what we're doing is a bit old school. We're just ferreting through and saying, who are our real outings? Not 20 people traveling, which we value, but it's not really an outing, right? They come and go. The real 100-person charity, bedrock of the community, memorial, all those things that we all have. If we feel like if we alienate them, we're being short-sighted, right? Because this is somebody, we've cultivated their business over years. There was probably a moment in time we were just begging them to be with us. We're so proud of contributing to the community. Could we make 10 or 20 bucks more a head, getting rid of them and getting somebody else? Yeah, it just doesn't feel good. And that's us. I don't know that that's the right way to do it, but that's us. And so we've got our best people just going through and saying, them, who are they? Who do we need to protect? We'll go to them. We'll explain. We're going to put prices up a little because of the circumstances, but let's take the long view there. And the group of 20 who shows up every 5 years because they're going around to 5 different states, well, they're really a little bit more like a daily fee golfer, and we'll treat them as such. Hey,
just to David, just to button up our previous conversation, I think one thing that just want to drill home is just the importance of kind of 3 fundamental elements, which I think are important to every golf course. I think you believe in these. One, make sure your data is your data and not somebody else's, right? Number 1.
Yes.
Number 2, make sure you're directly speaking to your customer,
yes,
and that they're not being spoken to, in other forums. And 3, make sure your best price is in a channel you own 100% of, right? If those things are happening, then you can partner with anybody as long as those principles are met, and that is the right long-term business strategy. You'd agree with that, David?
I agree with it. Are you? Can we mix it up a little?
Yeah, let's do it. What do you
got? Ronnie, you can keep throwing questions at us, but we figured there's a little bit of a thinking outside the box element to this. So we took it outside the industry a little bit. And with John's permission, I reached out to a few friends that honestly, some of them are people that hopefully are names you'll know, but they're people that love golf, but aren't in the space, don't do what we do. And so hopefully are freed up a little bit. And normally it'd be a little hard to approach them about a question like this, but they know, honestly, the level of respect and appreciation for what the industry's been through this year. To a person, they were all really, really cool and gregarious, whether they had a great idea or not. So one person that I mentioned, reached out to is a friend, Doc Rotella, who wrote Golf is Not a Game of Perfect. And I think he coaches like 80% of the people that win trophies on the PGA Tour. This is a person that more than anyone else on the planet, with the possible exception of the Dalai Lama, possibly practices what he preaches. Like, I've seen this guy, he's got somebody in paying him a fortune, and they're out then playing golf, and he's giving them a lesson, and he's playing for money with like 2 of his buddies, and he shoots like 71. It's just, I can't do it, right? I can do business or I can do pleasure. I can't really do the 2 together. And I said, okay, give us, let's talk about ideas. One of the things that's weird about this time is, though half of the people that are going to go away, John, that are going to play now are going to go away, some of them are going to stick. And that can turn into weird things, right? I don't know. Do you know the name Bill Battle? He was the USGA head for a while. Represented Curtis Strange, his Opens trophies. He's from Virginia. He's from my area. Beat him out of $1 once. It was such a great day. He didn't play golf as a kid until the polio epidemic. And this is like a fluky thing came across in a book that I was moving the other day. And he, in the 50s, they didn't know what was causing polio, and his parents wouldn't let him swim at their club. And so he didn't have anything to do. And his brother played golf, so he started playing golf. And then he goes on to this kind of, giant career in golf that really benefited many, many of us. And for those of you old enough to remember the box groove scandal, he's the one that navigated that, without drawing blood. That was his last board meeting, was getting that resolved. So, I mentioned that because we're talking about youth player development. We've made a big investment into that, and we had to curtail a little bit of it this year in a program that we're working with Doc on. And when we talked to him about how we wanted to design it and not have just another good version of what we're proud of doing, we said, how do we get like the best players to reinforce for each other and build something so they don't always have to be taking a lesson with us? How does it live beyond us? And we had this plan to go out and find 50 people ages 8 to 18 and whatever, and then sort of divide them up. That's what we always do. And he said, well, let me lean on something that, is a little bit, talked about relative to the Ryder Cup, but it'll just make sense to you guys. If they don't have somebody they're comfortable with, they won't come back out and play. And that's why they always hang around with your pro, because they had developed this friendship with them. But you need them to develop a friendship with somebody else. So if you've got 2 or 3 8-year-old boys, you got to find 2 more, right? Because you have to have the ability for them to be able to play with each other, even if somebody doesn't show up, and not have somebody that's odd man out, because then you've got bad dynamics. And then they will develop a friendship and a support system, kind of like business people do with mastermind groups or people do in private clubs. And it was one of these, like often happens with Doc, where he's so down to earth, and it was like a blinding glimpse of the obvious, where we all looked at each other and thought, that's not at all what we were going to do. It's way easier than what we were going to do, way easier. And we haven't had a kid drop out. Right. And we go out and we basically give our director of instruction a hunting license, and it's like, go fill up the 8-year-old group. And if he's got 3 and there's a 4th one he wants, it's like, all right, well, what do we have to do to go get that kid? Like, do we need to give them a little help financially, or, do we need to arrange a ride? Let's go get that kid and fill this up. It's just,
so it's like a pod system for junior golf, right? So the idea that this group will grow together, 8, 9, kind of like travel teams and youth sports.
Right. It's what's been used against the industry. It's what's been used against us so long. And he just cut right to it and just said, hey, here's how you do it.
Yeah. If you build instructional fun programming around a pod system, a friendship system, right? And you have golf instruction and you're playing and you're growing together. I mean, I love it. I mean, if you got to the point where years from now you had graduating pod classes, imagine how cool that would be. You introduced, new golfers to the game in a really unique way. I love it. Who came up with it first? Was Paul? Did Paul Azinger come up with that first for the Ryder Cup, or was that Doc?
He took it from the SEALs.
Yeah.
But, I think Doc's really said, that was a training mechanism, but it's the same principle, right? I mean, it's exactly the same principle. Think of it as adults, right? If you have to go play golf, if some people do anyway, but if you're playing alone, a lot of people, if their buddy isn't playing, they won't play. right?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know if I want to go play with but if your three friends are bugging you and saying, you got to come out, don't let us down, you go play and have a good time.
I love the idea of bringing it to adults as well. I mean, we should just go ahead and trademark golfpod.com right now and let everybody know, right? I love it. It's a great idea.
Yeah. And don't eat them.
Yep. Has he written anywhere about it? I see a question. Has he written anywhere about that?
I don't think so. But you know what? I'll, if that's of interest, I write for Golf Business, and I'll be happy to try to twist his arm, and he'll make me write it and then bless it. And I'll be happy to do that. Let me throw another name out at you. Now, these won't be, people that are as deep rooted in golf, but just to have a little fun with it. Somebody who loves to play golf when he's not on the road is the drummer for Iron Maiden, Nico McBrain, and pretty good golfer. Lives down in Florida when he's not, on the jet, on the Eddie painted, whatever they have, 757. And, here's a guy who just loves getting out to golf. And, this is a rock star. They still mint money. And you would think like that guy wants whatever, something extravagant because that's the lifestyle they lead. But in reality, he says to me, he texted, all good, matey, but perhaps if I could call ahead or order online for sausage sandwiches and some nice ice cream. Right?
Yeah.
And we break our back. We break our back to do everything right and have perfect golf course. And I'm sure he's at a nice golf course, but he wants a little less white glove, right? He wants treat me like a human. Don't treat me like a rock star.
What if you could get to the point where you had a customer profile, right? And you had the opportunity to reach out to that customer and say, how can we make your day at the course just a little bit better? And then you could attach those comments so that, him wanting ice cream is unique to him, obviously, but every customer's got a little bit uniqueness to them. And, that would be such a neat way to be able to start to really connect with our customers. I think what you're getting at is everybody's experience is a little different, but how can you make it just a little better, and how can you show you care a little bit?
So a friend of mine took some guests to Deepdale, which is, elite private club. Arrived after hours. We're staying on site. Kitchen is closed. So, on one hand, you're thinking, hey, it's Deepdale. Like, why don't you just stay up all night? But no, here's the nice touch, right? Here's the nice touch they were all talking about after leaving Deepdale. Note on the counter in the kitchen. Help yourself to anything, Mr. X. There's a whole tub of the ice cream that you like in the freezer behind you. Enjoy.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, this is titans of industry going out, and it's like, let's play the golf course and get tense. And they're all, when they come back, telling me about the ice cream.
Yeah. It's the personal touches there. Anytime we can interject that, I think it's important.
So, along the same lines of a friend who's the head of communications for the Bruins, Matt Chimura, is a good golfer and plays a lot. Like, they play when they squeeze it around, when they move around. And he had an interesting perspective. He shot me like 4 or 5 ideas, and I'm not going to throw them all out just from time. But what he said really was, and you and I talked about this a little bit earlier, is he talked about what they talk about in pro sports is curb to curb. So what they don't want is, you enjoy the game, but something went wrong on the subway ride in, and therefore, now you don't want to have season tickets anymore because it's a miserable experience. They did their part, but they lost control of something. So they think curb to curb. From the time you get there to the time you leave, what do we have to do to control the experience and have a good experience? And when he analyzed it from that perspective, his biggest point was, he said, I'll see if I could say it. He said, I've always thought the end of the golf round is disjointed, right? And so my first thought in hearing that is, I'm in the industry and I'm like, no, it's not. You drop your card at the place. We never lose them. You always end up where you're supposed to go next. Like, what's the problem? But then I started trying to think about it from, a pro sports perspective. Are we ending on a high note if we're having people drop basically their cart over with all the other dirty carts? usually where there's nobody there because they're off picking the range or something. And, you know, in the best case scenario, somebody's there saying, can I clean your clubs? But let's be honest. I mean, that's hit and miss. And, you know, I don't know. You know, don't the carts go separate ways a lot? I mean, are they getting greeted by? I mean, a lot of places have starters, and I mean, let's face it, the starter is like personality plus. Usually, he or she is like quick with a joke, really good judge of whether to give you ribbing or a pat on the back. There's no closer, right? We're not hiring the closer for that kind of personality. Usually, it's more like clean the cart, put it in the barn, ask them if they want clean clubs. In most cases, right? And I don't criticize any of us for that. He just opened my eyes. What do you think I'm reading too much into that?
No, I don't think you're reading too much into it. I think the idea of analyzing the experience from as soon as they enter the parking lot till as soon as they leave the property is important. I mean, have you ever got a warm cookie at the end of a golf round, Damon?
Never.
Nope. You probably
Nor have I ever given one.
Have you ever gotten a cold, wet towel on a hot day at the end? You know, you get them on a plane, you know, maybe we should consider these things.
Yeah, I've had it in the middle of the round at Reynolds Plantation, not one of ours. One of the greatest experiences I've had, but no, I've never had one at the end. Nobody ever says, here you go.
Yep.
Well, gentlemen, good afternoon. How are you?
Great.
I'm jumping in here. I was riveted, so I had to remind myself that at some point I've got to come on and ask that final question. But we do have a question.
Do you think he was riveted, John, or are we getting him hooked? Did we do something wrong here?
He just woke up, David.
No, the time has flown by, and we're at the bewitching hour. So you guys much appreciated. So I'm going to ask you both the same question. I'll put it up, and then if you want to answer that, and then give you a chance to each maybe provide a little wrap-up comment or so, and then Taylor will come on, and we'll be off and running and getting ready for tomorrow, day 2. So here's the question. What's the coolest thing you've seen this year that worked that you did not expect? Why didn't I think of that idea?
Ooh, that's going to put us right on the spot, but I like it. You want me to start, Damon?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think the idea that we had this increased demand at our facilities, you know, was something that had definitely happened at Brown Golf Facilities. I had an operator come up with an idea called Sunrise 9, and basically, you know, we tee off 7 a.m. to, you know, all day long off the first tee. We have the back tee open at 7 a.m. You know, can we offer a breakfast sandwich, a Sunrise 9, and get people off to work, create some more volume, some more revenue? That's what we did at one of our facilities internally. I loved it. I think it's a great idea. I think it's inventory that is unused. And you might have to get your superintendent on board, but he should be. Hopefully he's a team player. Once you do that, I think it's a great supplemental revenue stream. Really liked it. Breakfast sandwich, Sunrise 9, go to work.
I like it.
I'll be a tiny bit controversial, I guess. I first thought, honestly, prior to COVID, we had one facility where a lot of people use private carts, and we were trying to find a way to get people to not do that, to limit the wear and tear on the course. And we were anticipating a fight because they all, you know, who wants to switch carts? They've paid for it, blah, blah, blah. That was just my mentality going into this season. Like, single rider carts are amazing. Like, yeah, there's twice the turf damage, of course, right? And we have more play. It's hard. But play has speeded up. And the extra carts we've rented pay for themselves on the first day of every month, usually by like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The extra inventory it's creating, you know, back in the day, operators in the like $30 price range, you know, who had to jam rounds in, especially in the seasonal climates, like the Northeast, they used to mow at night. I don't know if we've got any night mower superintendents here, but they used to put lights on the mowers, and they used to mow at night because at first light you went, and at first light you did double T, right? So it was like, we're squeezing it in. When, you know, when high-end daily fee came in and manicured rounds were more the premium, then we stopped doing all those things, right? It was like, what do we have to do to be in excellent condition? We don't want people banging balls off the mower or mowing at night. The architecture got more interesting. So we got out of that mentality. And it was very much like pristine, pristine, pristine. But the reality is, how many years in a row have people said it's time? That's why I can't play more. It's time. The average time to play a round of golf hasn't changed in, since Jesus was in diapers, right? It's always been 4.5 hours. So the only time it's ever changed is this year. And it changed because we got forced to do something we don't want to do. Just like, when snowboards came along and skiing, and the ski operators were all like, we don't want those damn kids out here. And then it's like, oh, wait a minute, they have all this money? Like, it's okay. Bring them on Tuesdays. And here we are, this thing is like, I'm like, I don't want that. Oh my God, we got to spend all this more money on cards. And I got 2 different colors and I've got gas ones. This all sucks. Guess what? Not one complaint about any of that. And people are playing at some of our places in like 3.5 hours. We got a complaint at a course that has averaged 5 years in a row, 4.5-hour rounds, never a pace of play complaint. We got a complaint last week that it was 4.5 hours, right? Think of the extra inventory we're creating. That's an hour of extra inventory a day. And that's a lot of money. And we can keep conditions, pretty darn good, spend a little more money. So anyway, that's maybe a little controversial, but even in the States where they're saying go double rider, we're like, no, we'll stick with it. We love this.
No, that's great. Well, I really appreciate the time you guys took with us this afternoon, and I found it really interesting. I think Taylor's going to pop on here in a second and give each of you gentlemen maybe a last shot to get a point across, and we'll call it a day. Thank you very much on behalf of NGCOA for joining us today.
I'll go ahead and take first crack. It was a lot of fun being on this conversation today. If anybody has any questions about any component we talked about, all my contact information is on browngolfmanagement.com. Don't be scared of the direct culture we're talking about. You can maneuver, you can navigate it. I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody has wants any information about what that looks like. So a lot of fun, appreciate it. Look forward to talking to some folks in the future about it. Damon?
Ditto. I assume my contact information is there somewhere. And if not, I'm the only Damon DeVito, so I'm pretty easy to find. I would say this, this year's been about getting through this year. It started out getting through the day, and then it was getting through the month and the week. The political environment and the pandemic climate are such that we don't know what next year brings. And I know I don't want to bet my kids' college tuition or my mortgage or my employees' futures on somebody coming up with a vaccine at a certain day. So we're assuming the same, and anything better will be great. And consequently, we also can't assume there will be PPP. And so next year, could be lower blood pressure because we're better equipped and less shocked, but you got to do your cash flow. And I would say, get out there and do your cash flow. And if it's ugly, you got a lot of time to do something about it. You go talk to your bank, you figure it out with your partners. Right now you got time to figure it out. Next April, you don't. Next July, you definitely don't. And I don't want anybody in this audience losing jobs or firing people or losing their house. So do that.